Dear honorable participants in the conference addressing global challenges, NATO's approach to climate change. It is my sincere pleasure to address this distinguished audience. First and foremost, because the topic you are discussing, the climate change and its implications, stays high in the agenda of our societies, and it is rightfully a focus of the efforts of the international community at the highest level. Secondly, because of my personal involvement in the issues of climate change and its impact on security, currently as Minister of Defense of the Republic of Bulgaria, and before that, as permanent representative of Bulgaria to the United Nations. I would like to start by expressing my gratitude for the invitation to the organizers of this event, Sofia Security Forum, which has proven to be one of the leading Bulgarian think tanks in the field of security and defense, as well as the Crisis Management and Disaster Response Center of Excellence, which is an important institution for analysis, training, and exercises and lessons learned on this matter. To set the scene for the following presenters and discussions, I would like to outline the NATO's approach. Climate change matters for the way we live, for our security, and therefore it matters for NATO. The topic of climate change and its implications is not new to the security and defense community and NATO. However, 2021 can be identified as the year when climate change topic has reached high in the agenda of our heads of state and government during the NATO summit and to be part of NATO 2030 lines of adaptation. The Allied nations agreed that climate change is a crisis multiplier and that it is making our world more dangerous. Climate change can lead to a further increase in geopolitical competition for scarce resources. Harsh weather conditions in the south may put more people on the migratory routes to Europe. Melting ice in the high north could have a direct impact on the freedom of navigation and the strategic competition for new sources of high-value natural resources. We made an important decision at the NATO summit in June, where we agreed the NATO Action Plan on Climate Change and Security. There we have outlined 3 things NATO can do. First thing is to increase awareness. We decided that we will have annual assessments about the link between climate change and security. We will stay aware and proactively take actions against the threats emanating from the changes in the climate. We'll use the scientific and technological capacity of our alliance for in-depth research on the impact of climate change on security. We need to have a better understanding of what we are likely to face in the short and in the long term. The second thing is to mitigate the impact of climate change without having to choose between becoming green or staying strong. As the Secretary General put it, we need strong and green forces at the same time. We must look for solutions to reduce the footprint of our military activities, which have a negative impact on the environment. And there is a lot to do there. From the provision of electricity from renewable sources to the introduction of new methods of training and education using simulators with augmented reality, which will replace some of our activities without reducing our level of preparedness. Without downgrading the readiness of our forces and making compromises with the set of capabilities, NATO can still do a lot to mitigate the negative effects of climate change on the security of the Euro-Atlantic area. The third thing NATO should do is to adapt quickly to the climate change consequences that impact our security. The first step in the direction is to use the scientific and technological capacity of our alliance for in-depth research on the impact of climate change on security. We need to have a better understanding of what we are likely to face in the short and in the long term. Undoubtedly, we have to put in practice an effective system of anticipating, managing risk, and overcoming the consequences of crises of various kinds. Of course, that includes not only the armed forces, but also other state and public actors. Furthermore, in view of the possible negative effects of climate change on security in different regions, NATO and individual member states will have to assess their capabilities, their plans, logistics, different procedures, training and exercising, and more. Dear participants, at the end of my brief address, I would especially like to commend the approach that this conference proposes, namely, to unite the efforts of NATO representatives, think tanks from different countries, but also to involve partners from international organizations, the EU and partner countries such as the Republic of Korea, who are present today. Once again, I wish success to the conference, which will not only raise the right questions, but also will point possible solutions in the way ahead. Thank you for your attention.